changed it. I'm sorry, but like, if I'm going to answer Ed's question, I reserve the right to change one aspect of it, and therefore I've changed it to China when she actually was quite hot. So yeah, that would be my answer. Like I said, I'm not going to go into details of what they may or may not do because I haven't got a clue, mate, and I've not the vivid enough imagination, or I'm not that sick. Like what I would want them to do and what they would do could be very, very different.
You
And
know, this is just going to fuel them constantly for about a month.
I know it is, but like I'm not willing to go down that rabbit hole of what may happen within that hour. But yeah, like I said, China 2021. I don't care if she's not an option. That's the option I'm choosing. I've wrote my own box, and I've ticked China 2001.
Okay.
And now we can move away from that.
A more reasonable question.
Right.
Why is the Saint so fucking good?
Yeah, seeing this one, he's so full of himself, isn't he? Like it's ridiculous.
I think you just saw that he didn't win.
Yeah, but we all know that he's really good. Like I always tell him every time we do these podcasts, I don't know what more he wants from me, right? Because I tell everyone all the time he's one of the best ever. Like I don't know why he's so good. He needs to ask himself. Like
he's not getting a Saint tribute show, no matter how many times he bloody asks me.
I know he's probably upset because I just sort of kind of shoehorned his little Hall of Fame thing in last night's show, but I'll do him a tribute thing. Like I'll copy and paste all his best matches into a thread if that's what he really wants. Yes, he's one of the best. I don't know why. He's been the best from like one of the best since day one. Like when I joined, he was already world champ, and that's weird. Like because I think he's younger than me. Even though, like, I will just say on record, just so everyone knows, this doesn't really show him up, but he probably don't remember this. But if he does, I apologise. So when I originally joined 6WF in 2008, Saint was one of the bookers with River Ace, and he was, like I used to exchange messages with him on like the Heel Turns forum. Do you remember that? That's going back in it.
I don't remember the forum. I don't remember that forum. I joined 606.
Yeah, well, no, we were on 606, right? But like, obviously, 606 didn't have a PM function, so somebody in their wisdom, we were all part of. Well, I say all of us, some of us, part of the inner circle, were on this Heel Turns forum, and so if we had to discuss anything via private message, that's where we. So, like on 606, we'd be like, just dropped you a PM on Heel Turns. Do you not remember that?
No, I don't.
All right, you mustn't have been cool enough. But anyway, sorry about that, mate.
Stupid.
Sorry about that. You know what I mean? But you know,
I'm now only stupid.
You've not. Yeah, if you're not part of the team, you're not part of the team. But yeah, anyway, going back. So Saint, I used to throw some ideas around with him, and that like I became like his number 2, and he was giving it the biggin, like talking to me, like he was. He told me he was like at uni and all this kind of stuff, right? Full of shit. He was younger than I was, right? And then like a couple of months later, he PM'd me and he was like, "I've got something to tell you." And I'm like, "This is a bit weird." Like he's going to tell me that he knows me or something, which would be even stranger. But then he was like, "Yeah, I'm actually like 16 or something." And I was like, "It's not that big a deal, mate. Really? Like, don't know why you pretended you were older." Anyway, but that's just a little bit of unnecessary knowledge that everyone needs to know. That Dale pretended that he was older, like he'd be kicked out or something if he pretended or told everyone the truth.
I mean, when I joined up, I was 7. I think from your memory, I was 17.
Yes, I was 17 when I joined up. Like, that's what I'm saying. But he was like acting as though he was some uni kid, and he wasn't. He was in the year below me at school, but not at my school. But so yeah, just so you know, that's just trying to embarrass him a little bit. That's all.
Look, he asks another question. Obviously, slightly more sensible one. Top 3 moments from this Born in Fire.
Yeah, so I made a little list. Obviously, me winning the world title was number 1 because it was well deserved, and I worked really hard for it.
Shit.
And I think I can't think of a more worthy champion. But no, there wasn't on the list really. I think what I would say is, I've said before, the Patrick Uriu match was for me the best match. Like, that was one of my top 3 moments. Because I just think it was brilliant from start to finish. I think it told the story really well. I think it stole the show. Even in the build-up, everyone passed comment on the fact that it was just a really good story. I think it was better than everyone. That's not an offense to you guys, but I think it was honestly better than people were expecting it to be. And that's credit to you. You knocked it out of the park. I think it was brilliant. Hardcore hell for me was because I was concerned about how it was going to be portrayed. I was happy with it in the end. In fact, I was more than happy with it because it was brutal. But for me, it told a story, which is difficult to do when you're just sort of writing about 2 guys, trying to cut each other's faces off with a Stanley knife and that. But it was important. The storyline kind of ran through it, which I was happy with. And number 1's obviously the main event, because it's not the main event, it's the culmination of that storyline, which, as I've just said before, is my favourite now ever in 17 years. It's my favourite ever story. The guys knocked it out of the park. The match itself was on the money. The ending was what it should have been. I think it was just, it was just everything that I want in my head. And going back through these podcasts, like I said, and the kind of thought process I had with when Liam was involved in the story too. And there's no slight on Liam, because he's been so good for so long, but I am glad that Thunder came back, and I am glad that Liam's gone off to that storyline, because it made my decision for me, and the decision is the correct one. Rex and Kent needed to happen, and it needed to happen in the way that it did. And I'm just so pleased. I'm pleased for everybody involved. Like, their hard work's paid off, and yeah, I'd say that was my number 1 moment. I think that not only is my favorite storyline, I think it's probably go down as one of the greatest feuds maybe ever. In a lot of people's books, I do believe that.
I mean, personally, let's quickly run through my 3. I mean, I'm actually going to put, well, obviously, Kent v Rex Adamson is number 1. I mean, that's just no question. Number 2, and I'm not blowing smoke here. It's your match.
Yeah. But I get that. I can't say that myself.
There is a proviso to it.
Go on then.
Purely, that is, I'm putting it at number 2 purely for what happens on the Aftermath show.
Yeah, okay. I understand that.
If we're not counting the Aftermath show, Scott Harris is the second one.
Yeah. I get that.
And I'm actually going to put. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, I'm going to put Liam Wood versus Thunder as my 3rd choice here.
Yeah. That makes me.
I could have gone with Danny Riley stuff. I could have gone with myself, but I'm not egotistic like that.
Yeah, right, mate. Who are you trying to kid?
Shut up.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, no, Liam and Thunder. Yeah, I get that.
Like I say, but the quality is so there. It's like just you could interchange so much in regards to it.
I agree on that too. I agree that if you asked me the same question, last week or next week, it could be a different answer. I think there's a lot to take from that show, a lot to be happy with. From my perspective, from the Fed's perspective, I think it was a real culmination of everyone's hard work. I think it's one of the most stacked cards in terms of depth in every single match. Well, I say, bar maybe the first 2, which were more obvious, I guess. I think, but 6 out of 8, is it 6, 7? No, there was 9 matches. One, there's 7 out of 9 matches to be so difficult for me in calling them. That's a hell of a percentage. Like, we don't usually, over the years, we haven't been that lucky to have pretty much a card where near enough every match is a tough call.
Yeah, but on personal experience, I'd say 6 out of the 9 are tough to call. I think the only difference we've got is the Perfect Jack Scott Harris match, where, well, honestly, if Perfect Jack wins, everyone riots.
Yeah, I get that, and I think maybe we were not backed into a corner, but we really did need Harris to win that. But I think on any other given night, we could have gone with a Jack win. I think if Harris had won, put it this way, if Harris had won titles before, or this wasn't like the big, is he finally going to win one? I mean, that would have been a harder call than it was. But yeah. So yeah, those were our moments for Born in Fire.
And then we can now look forward to the Aftermath show, which starts up with a ridiculous amount of new storylines. And apparently, long story. I mean, I don't know where to start with this.
So I said to you yesterday, I was kind of looking forward to this in a way, being able to do this podcast almost straight after a show, because we can kind of just talk about and give a bit of a direction about where everything's going. Now, I'll be honest, some storylines I had in my head. Like, I've got a card for At World's End, which is first week in January. And obviously, so we've got to get there quickly because we've only last night's show and 2 more. It's a very quick turnaround for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So we had to move quickly. I think we moved at the speed of light in last night's show. We put a lot in place in a very short amount of time. So obviously the first segment was the Rex Max one from earlier in the day. Now, I don't know how everyone feels about that in terms of, was it obvious, like, where he was going?
Honestly, no.
Right, okay. Because I wasn't sure whether it was obvious or it wasn't. But yeah, I was. This is obviously a massive story, and as the show progressed, you've seen why, because he confronted Daniel Riley, challenged him to a unification match for the 2 world titles, which was great because for a number of reasons. One, because it explains the Daniel Riley storyline in terms of him leaving and having not signed a new contract. I spoke to Daniel via PM and I asked him to promo from any show that he wanted around the globe. Obviously, I think Daniel Riley, the character, is from Birmingham. So it kind of made sense for him to turn up at this Birmingham promotion that I've never heard of, I'll be honest with you, but it is a legitimate Fed, which is why the segment later on with the guy that he's beaten, he is actually like the champion of this promotion. Anyway, so it was I just found it fun. It was a fun story, but it's a big story. I've never done anything like that before. To have somebody interrupting another show. We kind of did this WCW, WWF simulcast, they're at their show and we showed it live on our show. It was fun. It was just something different, mate. I thought we'd try something different. It was a bit of a gamble. It might not have worked. And I'd like to think it did. It seemed to go down pretty well. It sets up an absolutely massive, whilst I know there wasn't a direct confirmation of it last night, obviously, we'll work on that. But that match, Rex and Daniel, going back to what we were just talking there about where does Rex go and how does Marky play it, I think I've given him something really big to move straight into following the Eddie Kent storyline. Same with Daniel. I mean, I've got a load of time for him. I think we talked about it before. He's a great promoer. This is his best ever work. He's been consistently fantastic for a long time. I think he deserves this story. So yeah, it was that part of the show. Very happy with. the direction of both Rex and Riley. It's a match that in real life, if that happened in a Fed I was watching, I'd be very excited. A unification match is huge. Like, automatically, that is just a mega match. Like, it's 2 world titles straight away. That's huge. It's just a massive, massive match.
I mean, is he going to run it? I mean, is the winner? I've got no idea who it is personally, but is the winner going to run around like RVD with both titles, or is it just going to be like one gets instantly dropped? Or
you'll have to wait and see on that, won't you?
Darn it.
In terms of, I think there was another question that was asked, and I can tie it in with what I'm about to say. I think Ed asked, can I give any kind of hints on any future storylines? And obviously, there was a few segments. Yeah, there's a few segments last night where we've kind of started to hint at certain plans, and obviously the Rex Riley match is, well, for me, all I can say is that's probably the first kind of piece of the puzzle. I mean, you can make of that what you will. I'm sure people will work it out. But yes, that's where we're heading. I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it before on a previous podcast. I don't want to sound too cryptic because I think I sound just like a right knobhead, like trying to pretend that certain things aren't happening. Like, we talked about it before. I'm not going to give everything away, but again, coming back to the fact we've got 4 world champions. We can't have 4 world champions forever. We've never had a storyline involving this kind of thing before. So we'll just see where we can take it in terms of obviously bringing everything together. Whether we end up doing something similar to what they did at Vengeance 2001.
Or you pull a Kurt Angle in TNA.
Yeah, I haven't decided definitively, but obviously, yes, it makes sense, I think, especially with the freshness that we're going with, to sort of start playing around with. It's a natural progression when you've got one belt. Like, instead of looking at who's your next challenger, you might start to look around and say, well, there's other world champions, but I want to be the best world champion. So I think it's natural that they start looking at one another as well.
Yeah, and then as the show goes on the air, we have you announcing the same for the 6th CWF Hall of Fame. What the fuck?
I mean, put it this way, right? So obviously we announced this pre-Born in Fire that Saint was going into the Hall of Fame, because I learned over PM that Dale isn't actually in the Hall of Fame, which I find absolutely disgusting. And I'll go on record, like, don't get me wrong, I'm partially to blame because I've booked this for years, but I think about everybody that is in the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. But
did you just forget?
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. Like, I don't know how that hasn't. That's no slight on anybody that's not in there yet, because you all deserve it in the end. But I'm amazed that decision hadn't been made many years ago. So anyway, I wanted to rectify that, but the thing is, rectifying it also presented a fantastic opportunity to further our storyline of us being massive dickheads, which was great, because it's almost like, out of character he deserves it, but in character it's so self-indulgent that it ties in so well with what we're doing. And
you must absolutely love the storyline, the way it's going.
I agree.
Much ego stroking.
No, but that opening segment for me, I was very, very happy with. We get down to it straight away. And it's a continuation, as it should be, of Asa sort of coming after us. We've obviously hinted for a little while about your alliance with Asa, which stems way back to, I believe, the beginning of time.
I think this is going back to the first Invasion angle, which I honestly don't remember.
No, but it goes way back to then. And plus, then obviously fast forward into last year when we reopened, he was obviously was there and helped you.
Yeah, he was the guy who screwed Clark James over.
Yeah, and so we're tying all the bits and pieces together, and obviously he needs an ally now because for all the best will in the world, he can't go up against the two of us by himself. So it's natural to give him an ally. I think you work for a lot of reasons in terms of, like we said, about any kind of persona, the spirit of 6CWF and that kind of thing, and the
me being a reckless idiot. Like,
yeah,
this is exactly what I do.
Ultimate kind of sort of face character again makes sense, and I just think it was really fun. And I think as we developed the show last night, and all the segments involved as we tied it all together, I very much enjoyed. Obviously, the kind of story and Asa being kicked out after we screwed him over. We made him win his match like 3 times.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. I've got to be honest, like, as I was writing him, I'm enjoying how we brought sort of Clarissa into the storylines.
Let's break this down into not by match then. Segment by segment. Let's go like just general stories.
Right, yeah, whichever way you want to do it, mate. I don't mind. Sorry, I was just kind of naturally leading into the next part of each story because,
like I say, it's like I say, we're bouncing around between segments, different segments, and all that as well. Because like I say, kicking Asa out, making his match win 3 times, that's like 6 or 7 posts down.
Right, it's okay. Well, how do you want to do it? Do you want to go through the show by bit?
Let's go story by story, and obviously you got the one main one running through it.
Yeah.
Which is of course JJ being completely not a dick and abusing his power.
Yep.
But there's like a couple of little sub ones as well that are like kind of interconnected to it. I mean, I know you wanted me and Clarissa to go together for a while now. Well, tell me what, about a month ago?
Yeah.
And now it's just a case of seeing where it goes. I mean, I'm not trusting her, which is perfectly understandable with the history.
But that's purposeful too. Like, it's not about me patting myself on the back, but like, it is, everything's purposeful. So like, her introduction into the storyline, and obviously the way we've been tying her in with yourself over the last month or so, is all part of, it's all part of the storyline arc in terms of, so obviously bits came out last night. Clarissa was a character that I made up in 2008 or 9 as the new backstage interviewer, because I don't even know if we had a backstage interviewer when I joined, and it was just like every promo was like backstage interviewer, like,
or we used like RJ and JT.
Yeah, and I was like, let's have a fucking name. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's make someone. So I made her. Like, I just created her, and I started using her in my promos, and then obviously it caught on, and she was in the shows, and then other people were using her. Sounds like she's been used a lot. I'm joking, but yeah. So we started to play on that, and I think if you were a viewer watching the story, I think you'd be spot on. A lot of people would be like, "Now, can we trust her?" A lot of last night's segments were deliberately like, she was telling you things, but is she telling you things to help, or is she telling you things to make it seem like she's helping, but really she's not? I just love it. I love every bit of it.
It's a case of like, what she wants. I mean, for those who don't know, Clarissa was essentially Uri's first girlfriend, who then low blowed me, and she then low blowed me and went straight to Max.
Yeah, she screwed you over. She sided with Max, didn't she? She
screwed me over and screwed Max.
Yeah,
literally.
She left you for Max, and obviously, so yes, there's that part of the storyline as well. She's got previous, she's got form. Will she do it again? again, it's not. This is not a pat on the back for me when I say it sounds so self-indulgent sitting here and going, "Oh, it's perfect storytelling," but like, it's just so good. Some of it's just falling into my lap. Like I was writing it yesterday, some of them segments, and I'm thinking, "Oh fucking hell, yeah, we can use that." Like that's another bit that we can add into it that maybe I hadn't thought about before. So like the idea of Clarissa being the godmother of JJ's children, I'd never thought of that before. But I just thought, it's a nice little fucking spin on that again. Like she's ingrained, she's deep in the family. She's been at all the Johnson family gatherings and that, like she is part of our family. And so therefore her being conflicted is even worse. Like she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like who's she gonna side with? If she sides with you, then she's, turning her back on her best friends pretty much.
And her job as well.
Yeah. So yes, it's a subplot which I love. I've said this before. I call them like whatever side quests or whatever. I love them. Like I love adding little layers on. And I think obviously that as the story progressed through the night, we added probably like 5 or 6 more on. It is a very multi-layered storyline, probably more multi-layered than I thought it was going to be. That's not a problem. I'm very happy with it. I just think it gathered so much speed so quickly last night that it became where I wanted it to be by the end of the show. I think it's past that already. Like I said to you, I think initially, we need to move quick on this because we've got 3 shows. But I think we're already ahead of where I expected to be. So much happened.
Like I say, we've only got like 2 shows after this, so you do have to. It's different. You normally have 4 or 5.
Yeah, at least 4. Between 4 and 5, we've got 3 here, which is we won't be making a habit of that, but sometimes it happens.
And and according to the calendar, you've got a short turnaround for the last one.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I've done that on purpose because I know yesterday's show was delayed, but that one will be fine because I've got a whole week at work and it's Christmas week, so absolutely nothing will be happening. But yeah, so gathered a lot of pace. Great storyline. If we're talking about the story itself, if we're going story by story instead of segment by segment,
we've got JJ abusing his power multiple times against staffers backstage,
which was brilliant. I love the bits with the Saint because he's starting to become a right dickhead now. That's art imitating life. No, but like it's just great. Everything about it's just great because you can just write these characters being absolute arseholes, like, and it makes sense because they're in charge and nobody can really do a lot. Well, I say they can't. Obviously, we'll progress that next week, but at the minute, it seems like there's very little people can do. Obviously they're just firing fucking referees because they're not counting a 3. I love that part of the main event. I just.
We also got Asa almost getting thrown out of the arena naked.
Yeah, again, it was just a bit of comedy. Like you can just imagine, can't you? Like,
yeah,
just one of them sort of on the fly segments, and it was kind of alluded to after his match where we had JJ and Saint talking about what they were going to do next, and obviously that was their plan, was to get him out of the arena, which is what they did. And obviously Asa playing ball and willingly leaving was, again, part of the storyline in terms of to throw everybody off the scent in a way. Not, but like JJ and Saint off the scent of him coming back.
Yeah.
In the main event. Obviously yourself left the arena to meet up with him, which was alluded to without having to show that happening.
You gave me basically a phone call, and it's just like you gave me a perfect reason to do it as well because you locked the doors to the roof.
Yeah, again, it's just like little details like that. Like I thought about it and I thought it just makes sense. Like I didn't do it and I thought about it. So on top of that, it's like a little in joke apart of with us locking the roof. The next bit was going to be like you went for some water and we'd smashed the water cooler.
Son of a bitch.
That's the kind of stuff that like I was just thinking that being just knobheads. But yeah, so the roof being locked was just like one of them tiny little details, which was fun and again progressed the story. Obviously, us cutting your music after you won your match.
Not against Eddie Kemp, but against Michael Sweetwater.
Yeah, you got a win for once as well, which was nice for you. I'm
not complaining about it. It's just a case of Rex. Sorry, not Rex. Eddie is basically just recuperating.
Yeah, it was part of the story in the end. Like it made sense, and I'd like to shout out on that, like Ed, and also Lee, from the perspective with Logan Kincaid. So spoke to both them guys sort of post Born in Fire, and both understand. I'm sure everybody else would if I asked them to, but so with Logan, he needs to take a bit of downtime now.
Yeah.
To sell the injuries and stories. Lee was very understanding about that, and he's still very happy and involved in the show. And same with Ed in terms of he basically made it known to me that he was quite happy. He's happy all the time, isn't he? But he's happy just like reading the shows, being involved, Miss Jessica being involved. So we made that decision. I think it makes sense from a storyline.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't show up last night.
And then you've got And then speaking of Eddie, you've got a little pre-segment which I fucking laughed my arse off at.
Oh, is that the Miss Jessica Perez segment?
Yes.
Yeah, I had fun with that. So it was good.
I'm such a child. It's just the fact that I'm in a Facebook group with Ed, Marky, and a couple of others, Acer as well. And my thoughts was basically, the reward is going to be he's having a sex celebration in the ring next week, isn't he?
Do you know? I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I can't tell you what's going to happen next week, but that segment was just fun. I've really enjoyed. I think I've made mention about this before, that I've enjoyed the kind of Miss Jessica, Brandon Perez sort of side quest story we've been doing for a little while now. I think they're two characters that click really well together, which wasn't purposeful. We just kind of, I think I threw them together on a segment once, and it was easy to write. And I thought they just have a lot of chemistry, which was again fun, and obviously bringing Percy into it. And I think again it's important. So like we were talking before about Rex and Kent and the end of their match and story. Well, for now or whatever, we may revisit it. I think there's more chapters to Rex and Kent, but I don't think they need to happen particularly right at this minute. But I think it's important now. Rex has got the belt. He goes on to whatever he's going on, and we need to find something for Kent that isn't. It's not. Well, there's no feud beneath him because everyone's so good. But we need to have maybe something that isn't. I don't want to throw him straight back into like a world title feud or whatever. You
need to call him off to bring him back up to heat.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm not going to tell you exactly what we're going to do, but I think it's quite intriguing whether he's directly involved or not, because, like I said, Ed's quite happy for him to sit back a little bit, but I think it's being involved with Perez and Percy and all that, like, and Genesis. I just think it's kind of a good sort of refocus point. It's great, obviously, for Perez and Percy, but also it's a nice change of pace, I think, for Genesis. They've been involved in obviously the most intense, brilliant storyline. So this is a bit different, but
yeah, it's kind of like I think you mentioned it in a prior podcast that you basically see the Brothers of Seduction and Genesis like a little side quest kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think works for them both.
I agree. I think we've run it under, or we've run it concurrently with other stuff that we've been doing. You know, we've had it kind of going on in the background with during Rex and Kent. I think they're characters that go very well together, especially with this. Like I keep mentioning it, but this reimagination that Ed's done of Genesis, which is very, very different to my original Genesis. I think he's blown it out of the water. I think it's phenomenal because we can do the intense, but we can also make it fun at times, which I think is what we're doing at the minute. Miss Jessica's a fun character. We can have her be very dark and evil, but she is fun too, and that just works with Percy and Perez. You know, obviously, it just like I said, that segment itself was massively fun, and I think
just twisting his balls like that, and it's just the Percy afterwards. Jesus Christ!
It's just like this is what I'm saying. I think I've said it on previous podcasts. Comedy's not always been my strong point, and it's not something that I always have enjoyed with other people's booking, but I think I've said before, and what I'm trying to do is I've got no problem with it as long as we have to sort of temper that with serious. So when they were in the ring with JJ and Saint, they put up a hell of a showing, and they showed that they can fight with the best of them. But then we can still have fun with them.
Speaking of the brief main event, well, obviously you've alluded to Saint and JJ abusing their power multiple times against Asa. Then the main event, you've got him doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets a bit crazy, to say the least.
This was like pure, like, I've said it before again in podcast. Like, obviously, a main source of my inspiration pro wrestling is like very much Attitude Era. For me, this was a very Attitude Era-esque main event. Sort of mixed in with a whole host of other stuff. I think it's been talked about before on the feedback, and I think Marky usually comments about like the main events. And I think we've over the past year we've only had like one Proving Grounds main event that ended without insanity ensuing. It's one of my signature things. But I think with this match, it made perfect sense for it to be chaotic at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody has to step in, and this is what I mentioned earlier. I'm thinking the Brothers Seduction in a like a War Games type setting.
Right.
I don't know who you and Saint have on your side, but Brothers, the BOS, myself and Asa, and possibly somebody else. But who do you have? I mean,
I know what you're saying, and I think
right now, Perfect World, who do you have on your side? You get two people.
What, like off the roster currently?
Present or past, either one.
I think if I was going off the current roster, I mean, I guess with how things have gone and the disappointment of obviously where he's at. I mean, and it would make sense, I guess, with the issues with Percy and Perez that we could offer some kind of alliance with Eddie Kent and Genesis to join us as a War Games team. We would still need one other. But if I was going off like all time, I don't know. It's a tough one. Maybe like again, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard because of storylines. Like previously, I'd have said like Clark James and Marshall Murdoch as like the Church of Hero, but obviously it wouldn't make sense for Clark to come back and align with JJ, or would it? Because JJ is a heel now.
I think it would kind of make sense. I mean, also Clark's got motivation against Asa and me.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't. Who knows?
If we, War Games is 5v5, yeah.
Traditionally it's 5-on-5, isn't it? But I don't think it has to be.
I'm saying I do. I mean, this is just my brain thinking right now. And if it was up to me, the fifth member, honestly, I wouldn't pick anyone for the roster right now, and that's not a knock against anyone. I would break the laws of time and space and get this fucker to do it. I would actually get Cassius in.
What, on our team?
No, on mine.
Yeah, well, that would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? Can you imagine, like, JJ's ass would drop out, like, if Cassius... if he didn't announce him and it was like they've got a fucking... Can you just imagine, like, an unannounced partner and he's stood there in the cage or whatever?
It's just
But anything, any way that you could bring him in... Look, we can go around the block several thousand times about this, and I think JJ is a heel and the heel turn in my head, of course, and being that we're heading into like the final year as a character for me as JJ. Yes, it makes perfect sense, and yes, I would love to do it. I would love to do it probably more than anything. Obviously, that's out of my hands. I've tried. I can't stress enough how much I've tried. I don't think I've tried to get anybody else back more over the last few years. It just doesn't seem possible.
Well, my initial thinking, honestly, it's a case of, I don't know, like a deal with the devil kind of thing. Because, Asa won't agree. Asa does not get on with Cassius. I definitely don't. It's just sod the past. This is about what you built, and this fucker is ruining it. Sorry, these fuckers are ruining it. Do it for that. You can murder me afterwards if you want.
Look, it makes sense. It makes sense on whether it's part of that, and I agree. And a War Games match would be fantastic, but whether it's part of that or whether it's just part of the actual storyline of JJ and the heel, I think having him and Cassius with the roles reversed at any point would be massive. Like I said, all I can say is obviously, yes, I would love to do it. Do I think we're going to? Probably not. Because for reasons I've already said, Demon has resisted all attempts to get him back.
Yeah, even just the storyline in general, thinking about it, literally, I needed something to connect a promo with in regards to basically go, right, I'm pissed, I'm still pissed at Max, but I need something else as well. And like I say, you've just turned heel, and it's just like, I remembered, an old Nitro, literally, the show after Bash at the Beach 96, and just Sting thinking, okay, because he went, I think it was the You Stick It Hogan promo.
Yeah.
And it was just a case of, okay, I'll put this in, thinking, Sting didn't touch Hogan for a year.
No. Yeah, no, he didn't.
I was only forward thinking. I was just being forward thinking at the time. Then I get a message from you saying, I don't even have to PM you what to do. You've done it.
Well, yeah, and obviously I said that, you'd made comment obviously about management and in your promo and sort of like the one other person who, you know what you said, along the lines of the one other person.
The one person who who I thought would not be corrupted was corrupted.
Yeah, and obviously that's great for me because I knew where we were going, and it's easy to grab hold of then, and I was glad that you'd made mention of it without having to have that discussion.
I think my first words were, "Holy shit, really?"
Yeah, and look at where we are now. One show removed from that. Honestly,
you specifically Saint fires me.
Yeah, which again was a great ending, and it was kind of on the fly again in terms of that wasn't sort of initially in my plans, but then I just thought we were kind of, you've got to follow the ebb of the story. So Saint was firing people for a laugh by the end of the show. You know, they fired the referee, and they talked about firing fucking Tim Allen. That's not the guy that voices Woody, by the way, but
The commentator.
Yeah, and although if he wants to sack fucking Woody as well, crack on. Like, that's up to him. Now, so yeah, it was just kind of followed on. You know, they're in full blown abuse of power mode now, and you've obviously got right under their skin. So guess what? He fired, and
I must admit, the one I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but the one change I would have made, I'd have had you do it. Not saying you for this one, you.
yeah, and I get that. There are reasons for why, which is I can't tell you because it's kind of part of how we'll open the show next week. But
Yeah.
there are reasons behind why. But I get it. You're absolutely right. You know, we could have done it with JJ. Like I said, in my head, there are reasons of which will be explained.
Yeah, I think in my mind, he would have basically just secured it a little bit more. Basically, he is an arsehole. A complete and utter arse.
No, he is now, isn't he, though? Like,
you know what I mean? It would have basically just been, hi, here's a nail, bang.
We are going to get worse. Right? And it is going to get worse.
Are you insane having a sixth celebration in the ring then?
I mean, don't rule anything out, but it's going to get worse. Like, because I'm enjoying it so much, but it's going to get worse. And I think because we obviously touched upon last night that pretty much nobody's safe, whether that's talent or whether that's staff, crew, whatever. You know, we can have fun with that because, like, you've got nameless people who and stuff, but we will obviously start to take it up a notch. And the thing is, obviously, we lost last night in the main event, which means, like you were saying about Born in Fire, if I'd have lost, obviously we lost last night. We're not going to be very fucking happy about that. And that's obviously going to play a part in next week's show. Is us showing just how unhappy we are. Very excited.
Like Angle 2003 when he was it GM? Was it 02 or 03 he was GM?
03, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because it was Vince was actually still liked then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can just imagine basically because Kurt, I think, fired Divas and a couple of there weren't Divas back then, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. I do, mate. Yeah, so like that kind of, but just anyone in it, everyone can get it. Like, it's just gonna be without, like, don't get me wrong, without bordering on absolute lunacy. You've always got to take that with, you know, into consideration. You don't want it to turn into a farce. You know, I'm still trying to tell like a decent story, but yeah, it's just very fun, and I think that's the bit to get across after last night. I was very happy, obviously, with the feedback of the show. Everybody seems to have really enjoyed it, which for me is the number one. You know, I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
My partner may say otherwise, but no. But seriously, right? That's the big thing for me. Like, as long as you guys are happy and it gets people talking and stuff, like, that's a good thing for me. And I think last night's show did. I think that storyline was massive. Like I said to you, I had a point in mind that I wanted us to get to. I think we've gone past that. We've really got the storyline looking great, and we've still got 2 more shows to develop that story. Fantastic.
I think we've roughly covered like little bits of everything else during the show, except for one, and that is Kilbane and Diego Romero in a hair versus mask match.
Yeah. So yeah, thinking behind this probably was we're hoping, obviously, Diego Romero's handler, Jeff, would be around. My name Jeff. I got to do it every time. I can't help it, right? But
no.
He's a hard guy to get hold of, and it's hard because he's American and stuff, and he's had a lot of issues with the site. The site plays up. I don't know if it's played up for anybody else, but there does seem to be some issue with it at times.
Speaking of the site and that, I'm sorry for a quick derailment. When do you want to? You sent me something a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Is that still going ahead, or
it is still going ahead? So what I will say is, apologies to Liam, to let the cow out of the bag. But at the same time, credit to Liam because he deserves a right good pat on the back. We'll do the official launch soon, but Liam has done some exceptional work and has designed us a new website, which is fantastic. The site looks great, and obviously we'll get that up and running and send the link out to people and stuff. It's still a work in progress because obviously Liam is only one lad. He can only do so much at once. Plus, he's had a broken leg.
And we've got Christmas coming up, so that's fine.
Yeah. And all that kind of stuff. And he's gone back to work now, so he's kind of juggling a bit of everything.
No pressure, mate. No pressure.
No, there's no pressure on Liam at all. What he's done is unbelievable. Like, I can't stress how grateful I am for what he's done. And I was supposed to be moving all the shows over, like the archive. And obviously I've been busy too, so I haven't managed to do what I wanted to do. So I apologise for that. In saying that, I don't have plans. We'll have a discussion as a group, but I don't have plans for us to just completely leave V2. Like, this is more, I think what we talked about with Liam, and me and Liam had discussed it, is it's important for us to have a legacy point. And if you understand that, like, all our shows and everything in one place, so that there will come a date when this doesn't exist anymore. Like, you know, hopefully that's not in the short term, but there will come a date when this is not a thing anymore. And it'd be nice to look back at everything in one place. And
yeah.
And also, obviously, having our own site removes. I'm not in charge of V2. That's the other issue that I have, right? And there have been issues, as far as I'm aware, behind the scenes in terms of I don't even know who runs the site anymore or who's in control of paying for its upkeep, etc. But the concern being that if that ever changes and somebody doesn't take control of its upkeep anymore and it shuts down and we lose everything, because I may have admin duties, but I'm not. There's like a next level to the admin. There's like a legacy. Like, you have to be one of the co-founders or something. And I'm quite simply not. I don't have control of that site. You only have to look around the site to see that, like, its activity is greatly reduced.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I know there's people posting on certain aspects of it, but mate, in reality, it is a dying board. Like, it is. There's no two ways around it. There's a lot of people don't use it anymore. It doesn't get used. And my concern is that one day I'll try and log on and it just won't be accessible. There's been nothing to say that is going to happen. But like I said, for me in my head, it's a worst case scenario. And so we wanted to do something about it.
It's been, and going back to the point of the reason I didn't say anything about it is, because I've seen it, I like the look of it. It's just trying to connect it with the issue. Hopefully they don't have issues connecting to it whenever we transition across to it.
Well, this is obviously, yes, another issue being that I understand V2 works for a lot of us because it's the same with me at work. Certain sites, certain boards are just not accessible. My work won't allow it. V2 flies under the radar. I'm able to get on it. And I think that's the same for a lot of people, which is why we've got the activity on the site that we've got, because people can get on it.
For most, but not for everyone, which is my point.
Yeah. But the concern being that if we move, this new site, I don't know, it may restrict people's access again. Like, that's obviously something we don't want. Because there are some people, including myself, whose main activity on the site is during work hours. Obviously, if that goes away, it takes potentially people out of the Fed, off the. That's why nothing concrete in terms of a definitive move from V2 is happening. But it's still important for us to have our own website, regardless of whether we run off that website all the time. It's still important for us to have it. I do believe that, because then for example, somebody like I was saying, Diego Romero, he may find it easier to access the new website. And therefore, if he can promo on there, there's nothing stopping us from transferring his promos onto V2 or vice versa. And that's kind of my thinking, is that some people are struggling for whatever reason. I don't want us to lose all our history, because it's, at the end of the day, a lot of work's gone into that. So yes, we have a new website. I will get the link up so everybody can see what fantastic work. And I would just like to really say again, thank you to Liam for what he's done. Because it's brilliant. And I couldn't have done it. And this is why I was so thankful, because I'm not capable of that kind of thing. And he's done great. And obviously we'll try and get as much stuff over there as we can. We'll run at the minute, like I said, the plans are we'll run off both sites. We don't want to leave it. V2 has been a good home to us. I'm not going to knock them. And like I said, I know that it works for everybody right now, where the new site potentially may or may not. But it's still great for us to have a dedicated website, regardless of where we do the shows and stuff. We've got a dedicated website, which Liam has designed. It's brilliant. Thank you. And like I said, I'll share the link so everyone can get on it.
Yeah, obviously, I'll probably, if you want me to, I can throw the link into. It wouldn't be a clickable link, but I could throw it into the description.
Yeah, you can do, mate. Why not? Because if people are listening to this who aren't part of the Fed, they can visit and have a look.
Anyway, back to the main point. After we've sidetracked, Kilbane versus Diego Romero in a hair versus mask match.
Yeah, so we've never had one before, and I think obviously I pointed out and alluded to that I'm a big kind of love Lucha Underground. I kind of like the Mexican culture of wrestling, and it's just something different. We've never done it. It makes sense in terms of obviously the two characters. It's a great way to sort of either progress their feud, end their feud, depending. It's a very different pace to everything else that we've got going on. Again, which is important for me, that everything doesn't look the same. We've got a lot of intense rivalries. This is an intense rivalry, but it's a different. We're coming at it from a different avenue, which again, like I said, that's important to me. I don't know how it's going to translate. It's just a one-on-one match. Like, there's nothing to it apart from that, if anybody's never seen one before. But basically, whoever loses, they either lose the hair or they lose the mask, which in Mexico is a massive deal, isn't it?
I mean, I know I think Rey Mysterio had to ask permission of I can't remember the exact name of it, but literally he had to ask permission of a certain group to put his mask back on for his WWE run.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So it makes sense, if we're staying true to these characters and their kind of lineage and stuff, then we want a sense of realism. So I think it's a realistic match that would take place between two Mexican fighters. I'm hoping, obviously,
name for this because I know it exists.
Yeah,
Luchas. I'm going to butcher this. I think it is Luchas de Apuestas.
That's the one. That's what I put in the show last night. I had to Google it, but yeah,
I just couldn't remember it all.
Hopefully, we can get the two guys going back and forth with a nice promo battle for it, which would be fantastic. So like I've said, the guy Jeff Diego Romero, he is very good. I think everybody agrees. Everybody that's seen his promos, he always gets a lot of likes and stuff on the V2 website for the stuff that he's done. I just like him to be active. If the new site can help that for him to be active, for me, that's a winner. And obviously, I know BD, and he's brilliant as Blue Dragon. He'll knock it out of the park as Kilbane. It's a fun feud. Very happy with it.
I know I missed something. Kilbane versus Marty Helms. That was it.
Yeah. Again, it was I took on board something that was said, I think, a few weeks ago. It might have been Marky. He makes good points, but sometimes in a week, I think sometimes when I'm doing the weekly shows, I have people like, so it would have been easy, for example, last night to have Marty Helms go over, but off the back of Diego Romero getting involved before the end of the match, and I think I'm guilty of that sometimes in order to keep everyone looking strong. But sometimes you just lose, and I think that was important last night, that, Marty Helms needed a clean win. He got a clean win.
He needed to murder somebody to keep strong.
Yeah, and then it's no slight on Kilbane, but it's the same thing that you've got to take into account sometimes, is that someone has to win, someone has to lose, and not every win and not every loss can be because of outside interference, or that's just, sometimes you just got to have a definitive clean win and loss, which is what we did last night.
Yeah,
I don't think it particularly harms Kilbane because Marty Helms is quality.
See, it does not. It does not. I mean, the slightest, like say, 50-50 booking, nobody wins.
Yeah, and I think don't get me wrong, it's hard. I think I've talked about this before with Ethan, and I've put up comments before and asked you guys your opinions. It's difficult with us because we don't have like a set of jobbers or whatever like that we can just call upon for everybody to rack up wins. Like, you guys a lot of the time have to go head to head with one another, which makes the booking difficult. And sometimes, like, it's hard to get winning streaks or whatever because everybody's very competitive, which makes it hard. Like I've said before, in WWE, if they want their top guys to look like top guys, they've got 75 people on the roster that they can pick for them to beat or whatever, and it doesn't matter because. But in our Fed, sometimes you have to be careful. Like, you have to be careful about people taking wins and losses. But at the same time, you can't just have straight 50-50 booking because it doesn't work like that. Like you said, nobody ends up coming out of it looking great.
Yeah, I know I'd seen something recently. Just in real life, in terms of like 50-50 booking and mentioning all that, just trying to make everyone strong. Do you know how Jinder Mahal, basically how his rise to the WWE Championship happened?
He was on some sort of crazy winning, losing streak, wasn't he?
Just looking here, I knew I saw this yesterday. Basically, within 77 days, he went from losing to Cesaro, only winning 2 matches against Curtis Axel in main events, loses to Sami Zayn on Raw, loses to Mojo Rawley on SmackDown. The week after he loses to Mojo, he wins a 6-pack challenge. Then 3 weeks later, defeats Sami Zayn in a singles match and pins Randy Orton a few days later in a 6-man tag. 3 weeks later, he's champion.
Yeah. And look, you can say what you want or think what you want about that run and all that kind of stuff, but it is kind of a case in point in terms of, I guess, that's why losses and stuff don't always particularly matter. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't particularly agree. It's like, in WWE have done that stupid booking, like where somebody wins the Money in the Bank briefcase and then they lose every single match, and then they were quite famous for it for a while, where like the case holder was like just going on mad losing streaks all the time before they cashed in.
I'm trying to think which one that was.
Might have been Dolph. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, they did it a couple of times, I think, and I don't think that's particularly helpful. But at the same time, like I can build someone back up if you take a couple of losses. And plus, like I said, we keep pushing in the shows and that it's the most competitive roster we've ever had. You know, you're gonna lose. Like we did the thing with Rex where he went 18 months unbeaten or whatever, and that was great, but we can't do that with everybody. Not because of their abilities, but because it just doesn't work like that. Like, and I think everyone understands that now. I said it's
Yeah.
not like previous where they don't. I think everyone gets it more now.
And speaking of people getting it now, I'm going to jump to the segment where I'm going to admit I am heavily relying on you for this.
Yep.
We're going back to your past. We're going back to the very start of your career.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously we talked about doing. I think I said a little while ago we're going to do a little bit of a revised history of e-fedding or our e-fedding.
We both have a file up here, which is 60WF pay-per-views from April, and the winners in that. I mean, I'm looking at people. It's just like I've got no idea half these names.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's some I remember, but like I say, it's a case of I'm hoping that JJ, you can point me out, basically saying, okay, what happened here? What did this lead to? What would you do instead? You know, that kind of thing.
So I'll start off by setting the scene a little bit. It was 2008, if you can remember back that far. What a time to be alive.
In e-fedding terms, no. In life terms, yes.
So I've just joined 6WF. I believe it's late April 2008. Sorry, mate. I'm just mindful. I believe I'm about to get a delivery.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Like I say, I'm just looking through the card right here.
So bear with me for a second.
Yeah, of course, of course. Like I say, I'm just going through the card. We've got 6WF Pain, we've got Mayhem, we have hang on.
Hey mate, how you doing?
We have Chaos as well.
You take a picture or anything?
And Against the Wall.
See you later.
And for those who just heard that, yes, that was JJ getting a delivery. I wonder what he's got. Maybe Santa sent him something. I don't know.
Nah, Santa hasn't sent me nothing. It's stuff for other people, but obviously it's come out of my bank account. But yeah, it's just presents for other people.
You've been spending now.
No, to be fair, I've spent it, but it's for other people. So yeah, because it's Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, back to where we were. You were saying.
So right, 2008. I've joined this late April 2008. Stumbled across it on the 606 boards on the BBC, which have closed down now, which is a shame because I really enjoyed it.
That was such a confusing system to read, though.
Yeah, it was. It was very weird, and it's hard to explain to people that weren't involved at the time. So I'm not going to try. That's another time. But anyway, so I've joined 6WF, and basically a pay-per-view's come along, and I haven't made the card because I've literally just joined. So I think my debut was like the week after. Anyway, so this is 6WF Pain. That was the name of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I've ran through the cards we're going to be I've ran through the names of the cards we're looking through. But yeah, again, my memory back to this far, I mean, I recognize some names, but I don't remember the majority of them for the slightest of me.
Right, so I'll bounce through these results. I'll pay more attention to the bigger matches if you don't mind, because some of them, as I've alluded to before, there was a lot of filler shite back then, and like these matches on the card that I don't even know why they bothered. Right, so I'm being serious now because there was no benefit to anybody for any of these. They didn't even have handlers some of these matches, so it was pointless. So the first match at 6WF Pain was a dark match, and I've told you this is River used to like doing the dark matches, which is like a pre-show.
Yeah, we both agreed. Why?
Yeah. So this one, no word of a lie, is Stone Cold Steve Austin, right, versus Henchman. And
Henchman was literally Crime Lord's henchman, as was covered.
Yeah. So Henchman wins, and I think it was like a bit of a squash, pointless match. Henchman is just a side character that didn't need to be on a pay-per-view, didn't need to be winning, didn't need nothing, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin, can't tell you who made him, don't know why they made him, don't know why he was involved, don't know why anyone wrote that match, waste of fucking time, right? So I'm going to skate over that because who cares?
Yeah.
First opening match.
Your enthusiasm is clearly available to hear.
Oh, it's going to get worse, mate. But anyway, right? So, opening match of the pay-per-view itself. Finlay, and that is actually based off the Finlay character. But he was a decent promo, but he was absolutely fucking nuts, right? He was mental. And I say that in the most endearing fashion, but the guy was nuts. And he had some mental fucking promos and everything. But anyway, so Finlay versus Matt Lightning. Now, if I tell you about this match in brief description, and it only deserves brief description, nothing against Finlay or Matt Lightning. Matt Lightning won this match.
Yeah.
Just if you're keeping up with the results at home. But the storyline behind this, if you read it on the 6WF website, is Finlay, apparently, the Irishman, owned a record label, and Matt Lightning wanted a record deal. They therefore had a match. If Matt Lightning won, he got signed to the record label because he wanted to make a rap album.
I'm going to say this now. What?
That's all I'm really going to say on it, because, I mean, it sounds as fucking stupid as it is, right?
It sounds like Booker T for Edge for the shampoo commercial.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to say on the matter, right? Regardless of these characters, my thoughts, always quite liked Finlay as a lad when I was booking. I had some comments with him. He used to retire every month and then come back and whatever. But he was an all right lad. No idea what the booking behind this was, but it was shite, right? So
can we go on to Rock V2, who you've already stated your opinions on in previous podcasts?
Yeah. Well, I've got opinions on the character. Like, the guy himself was a pretty decent promo, but anyway. But Rock V2, hailing from Gloucestershire, make it out what you will, right? Anyway,
Rock V2 in Easy Money versus Immortal Cruz and Gary Johnson.
Yeah. So this is for the tag titles. Rock and Easy are the champions. They retain. Don't know who Immortal Cruz is. Gary Johnson, or Gary Angel Johnson, as was his nickname, was Crime Lord's secondary character. Don't know why they were a team. Not really sure. Like I said, this is a very revised history of 6WF, but I don't know why they were a team. Don't know like what the connection was. Seems like
I'm assuming we're not changing any of these matches so far.
Yeah, because I wouldn't change it because I don't. But what I would change is I either wouldn't have them, or like I wouldn't have a shit story like a rap deal or something.
Okay, then we go. Oh, sorry.
No, so the tag champs retain. As we'll get on to the next pay-per-view, they're leading to a split. Whatever, right? We'll get to that. But next match is Phoenix Rose versus TGA. Now,
what does TGA even stand for?
Go on, mate.
What does TGA even stand for?
The God Sent Athlete.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But anyway, right, he was a good promoer. He was actually a good promoer. And he becomes world champion, that we'll get on to, and stuff like that, right? But he was very new. He was a young kid. I think he was a bit younger than I was, but he was just cutting his teeth. Phoenix Rose, I think, had been a big part of the 6WF tour invasion in 2007. I think at this point he wasn't promoing. He comes back later in the year with a bit of a vengeance. But TJ wins this match. It's like 3 lines long or something if you read it on the website. I think he passes out or something. This was just a way of establishing TGA for his meteoric rise from... I don't think he really deserved to become world champion when he did, but he wasn't a bad promo anyway, but that's different. My opinions don't matter for that. The next match.
Then we get to an interesting one, because I recognize the name of Well, you got River Ace versus Randy Pieper. I recognize the name. I don't know the history.
I mean, obviously, what a ridiculous fucking name that is, right? But I
I
assume
remember it. It is that ridiculous.
it is played off of, like, I don't know if he's meant to be like Roddy Piper, Randy Pieper. I'm not really sure. Don't overly care.
It is, but I don't know for certain.
So apparently he was a tour guy. He was TAW. He was a former. He was actually a world champion in their Fed, right, before. And so the storyline behind this is that something like River Ace is challenging him to a match because River Ace is the lockdown commissioner, and he wants rid of all these TAW people for good. He thinks Pieper's not coming, and he wants a count out victory. And then he storms the arena, does Pieper, right? Sounds just ridiculous talking about him, but anyway, so he storms the arena. They have a fight, turns into a falls count anywhere match. They're fighting all over the arena. They go backstage, and somebody runs Randy Pieper over, and River pins him after he's been run over, and he's possibly dead on the floor.
Does he ever come back?
No, he doesn't. That's it. He may be dead. I don't know, but he's still
like he's just being left in a parking lot, just parking space somewhere.
But River made sure to get the free count like beforehand, so good on him. And yeah, so less said about that. I don't really know. Like I said, maybe Ace and Saint, they might know more about this than me, but shit show is all I'm thinking right now. Next match.
Hobo versus Enforcer versus Berserker. Berserker, I do not remember at all.
Right, so the idea behind this, as far again, this is what I can remember. We're talking about on our 17, mate. I know as much as I know. So Enforcer at this point is a heel. He's part of the Dynasty, so he's aligned with River Ace. River Ace, Enforcer, Crime Lord, TGA, and a guy called GWC, who we'll get onto further down the card, right?
Yeah, I'm just seeing he's literally in the main event of the next show.
Yeah, right. So they're all part of the Dynasty, but basically Enforcer's embroiled in this feud now with Hobo and Berserker, who are the components of Trash TV. Okay, now Berserker's a guy in a mask who turns out to be Diablo in a mask, right? And then we went on this booking thing where, do you remember they used to have their own show sometimes, like once every 3 months, called Trash Down?
Yeah, I remember Trash Downs.
Yeah, and you used to get thrown in a fucking dumpster or whatever. That was like the big match or whatever. And the big running story all the time, every year we did like Berserker, Who's Under the Mask, and it was a way of bringing people back or whatever.
Okay.
So Berserker ended up being Diablo at this point because he'd faded out of the stories earlier in the year. I don't know how, because like I said, I wasn't part of it. But this all leads to, down the line, Enforcer leaving the Dynasty, which we'll get onto, I think, in one of the later pay-per-views. He leaves and aligns with Trash TV. But Hobo wins this. This is part of Hobo's build towards the main event.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the card. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't change that.
No, I've no problem with that. Like, I can't say I've got an issue with it. It's hard to say too much because of the plans. Like, I'd strip this whole thing, mate. I'd strip this whole thing back and realign it, but in my own sort of image. But that's not. They obviously had different plans of what they were doing. So the next match is Acer versus Crime Lord in a Destination Elevation match, which is obviously...
Isn't that just a scaffold match?
Yeah, it's that. You did it in TNA with the X, didn't they?
Yeah, that was Elevation X.
Yeah, I think this is what they mean. I think this is what they mean, right? Because we did the same thing during COVID. You had one with a guy called Ethan Shaw.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, maybe Ethan Shaw, and that ended up with... was that the one with Christie falling off a platform at the end?
Yeah, we did it in like a warehouse, didn't we? Because it was like COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is due to Acer at this time, from what I can gather, he's still in storyline, the other commissioner with River Ace, but he's on his way out because I think in real life he'd left. He was going to do his exams or whatever. So Saint was taken over. So the storyline being that Asa gets taken out here by Crime Lord, who's working for River Ace. And I think they all get involved. There's like shit ton of interference in that match, and he gets launched off the top of it. And
basically, this is 2000's WCW.
Yeah. So, like, again, I can't say I changed the result, but I certainly, this whole card would look very different if I was doing it. That's just me personally. The main event is Nemesis, who I've talked about before, that I loved. He was the TAW World Champion versus the Saint in a casket match. And Saint wins this match to become the new champion. He wins clean. And then after the match, River Ace, because obviously he's involved in the whole show. I don't know what that's like to book a show in your own image, but this is what he's doing.
Well, you're experiencing that now.
Yeah, he's making this all about himself. I think that's disgusting. But anyway, so he comes down, he sets fire to the casket. Nemesis, oh my God, he's on fire, right? That's the end of the show. Rivers set fire. Saint's the champ. And that's pain. And it was painful, like, reading it. But anyway, so half decent. Some of it's decent, some of it's not.
One thing I would like to try and suggest, maybe for a future show, once we're both a little bit less busy, is basically just going, okay, I think I mentioned this, what this was meant to be, was like, here's the roster for 2008. Build a year around it. Here's the champions all.
Yeah, I agree. I think the next time we do this, definitely, because I think obviously we've tagged this on to the end of talking about last night's show and Born in Fire. So we're kind of just sneaking it in. So what I think we'll do is we can talk about these shows if you like, and then next time when we pick it back up, I think this should be our main focus because it deserves a bit more attention. I think you're right in terms of, and I'd like to see what I'd like to do. Because at the minute, I'm just really, I'm kind of trashing it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it deserves to be trashed. But, you know, if I'm going to trash it...
I think it's a case of, like, say, if you can find the rough rosters for us, basically give me the roster, basically go, okay, here's pay-per-views, here's what we do with, here's the basic characters and all that. Both of us just run a year of it. We both compare notes.
Well, what we can do is, if you want, I'll do the next pay-per-view. I don't have to do all four. I could just do the next pay-per-view, and then we'll go away from it, and then we'll pick it back up next time.
Okay, yeah.
If I do Mayhem, which is aptly named for the May pay-per-view, and then the other two, and then I'll send you the others for the rest of the year and the roster, so then we can have a right good go at it. Yeah, I agree that what I'm doing here is, like I said, I'm basically shitting all over it. But I'd like to delve a bit deeper.
I mean, like I said, I would absolutely love basically go, okay, here's a rough character guide, here's what we're doing. Oh, here's the basic motivations and who they are. Here's who they're stable. Here's who they're stabled with.
Yeah.
And basically just both run it.
Yeah, let's do that then. So let's just do this one last pay per view, and then we'll just draw a line under it. Okay.
And what a start to open Mayhem with. Stacy, is this Stacy Keibler?
You know, the thing is, right, I went away thinking about this because Ace said he didn't think, but actually I went and looked, and Trish Stratus was actually named Trish Stratus, so she might not have initially meant to be Trish Stratus, but she was. But then I delved a little deeper on the Stacy character, right? Now, I always believed that she was supposed to be Stacy Keibler, and there are many things in the show that point towards her potentially being Stacy Keibler, but she's never named that. And then I read something that made some comment that was about potentially something River Ace in real life. This was like his real life girlfriend or something.
What a lucky man to get Stacy Keibler. Fucking hell.
He wishes, right? But anyway, yes. So this is... When Stacey, I tell you more about this, it makes it even worse. So
for those who want... this is Stacy versus Miss Jessica in a bra and panties match to open up the show.
Well, actually, it's the dark match, right?
Oh, dear God.
Which makes it worse. I'm a red-blooded male, mate. I've got no problem. I'm not one of these guys that thinks that it was dreadful when we had these matches because they were very fun, right? And I feel like we're far too apologetic for things that happened in the past. Like, fair enough, the women can wrestle nowadays, happy days. But most of them women back in WWE they were loving it, mate, and I was loving it as a kid, right? I've got no issue with it.
You're a young kid, of course you'd love it.
That's what I mean. It's a different time, a different era. Like, Stacey Keebler couldn't particularly wrestle. Tori Wilson wasn't a great wrestler, but they looked phenomenal in their underwear. So happy days.
Anyway, onto the match itself.
Yeah, the thing that's so, like, when you read it is just so. Miss Jessica at this time is pregnant. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So obviously we know the story. Miss Jessica's pregnant. We'll get onto the match when we do the whole rest of the other pay-per-views with the infamous "Who's the Daddy" on the pole match. Paternity test, right? But so Miss Jessica has a baby with Hero, right? That's the thing, that they have a son together, which has always been alluded to in stories. But during this is when she's pregnant and she has to come out. She's being basically embarrassed. She has to come out and do this bra and panties match that she can't obviously compete in because she's pregnant. So in the end, she's just basically forced to undress. I don't want to say much more about it because it's actually horrifying, but basically they make this pregnant lady take her clothes off. I mean, this is like, if ever there was the start of this is the start of the heel, the bad guy villain arc. This would actually be a good starting point. If we ever had to tell the story of why Miss Jessica became who she became, this should actually be a really good starting point because this is horrid. Like, this is horrid.
The only bra and panties match, honestly, I can honestly remember. I don't even think it was called that, but it was when Shawn Michaels was commissioner, and it involved the women's title.
Yeah, I mean, that's
because Shawn basically it was a title change because of that, and it's just like, geez, just coked up Shawn was another thing entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it is what it is, but there's so many outlets out there. If that's what you want to have a look at, like, you don't really need to see it in your wrestling show. But yes, this was a joke. Yes, this was probably a really good villain
show. It's called NWA Samhain.
Yeah, this is whatever. That's the dark match. We're past it, right? Yeah. So we open the show with Finlay, who is the internet champion, against, you're looking at the real dude now, right? A guy called Real Dude, who I don't actually know who this is again. That is the name of the
song. Isn't that basically...
That's D'Lo Brown's theme music, yeah.
It's the Real Deal now. Not
I
Real
thought it was Dude. Well, I've changed it, okay? I've changed it. So that's what... If he had anything about him, any sort of creative nous, yeah, this guy, that's how he should have changed his own theme music to say, you're looking at the Real Dude now. I've basically just made him money, right? He should have stole D'Lo Brown's theme music and then twisted it to suit his own character.
It is. You're looking at the Real Deal now.
Yeah, well, now it's you looking at the Real Dude, right? I've just made him a shed load of money. If he had anything about him, right? That's what he should have done. If he was writing a promo, right? If he was writing a promo in my Fed and he switched that up and he put that as his entrance, I'd probably give him a title. And as it is, he actually wins the internet title here. So I wonder if he did, right? He beats Finlay.
I'm saying Finlay basically just won the title randomly?
I don't know.
Because
he may have done.
I don't know. Sorry,
I don't know. I don't know because he doesn't defend it on the last show. He's all about the record label in the last show.
He's not even champion in the last show.
Yeah, this month he's defending a title and losing it. It's not going well for him because his record label's up the shonk and now he's lost his title. No wonder he kept on retiring. But anyway, we move on to probably the greatest match of 2008.
Oh, shut up. This is so fine wanky.
Like, this is probably peak River Ace booking, right? To which I said to you, the only way this could have been better if it was a Johnson on a pole match, right?
Okay, let me clarify the match. This is JJ Johnson versus Gary Johnson versus Jake Johnson versus Jerry Johnson versus Steve Johnson in a Johnson brawl.
It is unbelievably shit, but it kind of works, right? In terms of, this is obviously my pay-per-view debut, the debut of a legend, and I win, obviously, because I was awesome from the get-go. But also, to take into account, untouchable Jake Johnson, he was called. I should have put, well, he was very touchable because I smashed him. Gary Johnson was Crimey's character. Jerry Johnson and Steve Johnson are actually the real names of the producers, right? So they're the producers, those two. But the fact that it's called the Johnson Brawl is ludicrous, right? It is ludicrous. And it is just a free-for-all, like anything goes. I think I win the match by, like, superplexing somebody for a table or something like that. I don't know, but this is like TNA fucking meets, I don't even know, but it's like the shittest match ever.
This is the WCW Hardcore Invitational.
Yeah, this is like, honestly, like, it is as bag wanky as you can get, but I won. That's all that matters. That's all I care about. Like, forget the rest of it. I'm not bothered. I won, right? So you can put me in all the shit matches you want. Johnson on a pole, anything. As long as I've won, no worries.
Jesus Christ.
I've done that. So we move swiftly on to a nice intergender tag team match.
Who is Belinda?
Right, we'll get onto this, right? So Enforcer is teaming here with Trish Stratus. And I would like to emphasize that on the actual match, when it's wrote, it says Trish Stratus. So it must have been her. I don't know what's happened, but she's joined us. And then they're facing Berserker and Belinda. Now, Belinda, believe it or not, is the canteen lady from 6WF who was pretty much adopted as a character. I think she was created and adopted as a character by Trash TV. And her name was then changed to Muffins O'Malley, right?
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, that's legitimate, right? Enforcer.
I honestly thought you were going to say it was Belinda Carlisle.
I fucking wish it was, mate, but it wasn't Belinda Carlisle, right? And you know, heaven is not a place on earth, but this is shite again. And Enforcer wins because he tries to kick Berserker or something, and then he kicks Belinda in the face and wins. Yeah. Shite,
yeah,
but anyway.
I'm just slowly getting more and more stunned the more I read this.
That's what I mean. We need to go at this for like a whole podcast because it's fucking. This is where like it starts to legitimize itself a little bit more. Like, because I think Saint had come in now, and I think he's doing some pretty decent work. You know, I'm going to give him some credit because this next match, Crime Lord's hardcore champion, he defends it against Matt Lightning. This is like Crime Lord getting under his feet. Obviously, he's a hardcore legend. I think he's like 4-time champion now. This is just a solid defense for him. Obviously, Matt Lightning's rap career's gone up in flames by this point from last month. I don't even really remember Matt Lightning. Like, I remember him, and I think he used to actually rap in his promos. I don't know if he was like a rapper in real life, but he was a shit one.
Well, you're remembering more than me because I don't remember the name at all.
Well, anyway, shite, mate, but Crime Lord won. And so the next 4 matches are actually pretty, like, have you seen them stacked up, these next 4 matches? That's pretty legitimate. So River Ace versus Hobo. Yeah, so Nemesis comes back. Obviously, he's been set on fire the month before. And he's back now.
And obviously he's going after River Ace.
Yeah, he cost River Ace. And they have a match at the next pay-per-view. We'll talk about that next time. Hobo wins, carries on his winning streak, obviously, which will lead on to what the year leads on to. The next match, Hero and TGA. I'm not really sure on this one. It's a bit of throwaway because Hero wasn't promoing at this point. Like, he'd been the big guy 2007, early 2008. He'd already won like 4 world titles or something. Not really sure on the booking of this because TGA was obviously being built up to become a world champion. He's won in the last pay-per-view. He now loses a throwaway match with Hero on pay-per-view. Not really sure why that's happened. Because Hero definitely wasn't around at this point. He comes back, I think, the following month. But anyway, by the by, Hero wins. and all's right in the world again.
Yeah, I honestly think I would flip. I mean, looking at the next card, it's like, how far does he drop down?
Yeah. So
TGA, I mean, in this case.
Yeah, it's a strange one. He seemed to bob up and down the card and then just become world champion, which we'll discuss. But it was very random.
Well, saying that, you did say no. I mean, like I say, if this was you,
I wouldn't have done any of that. I wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have become world champion when he did. That's no slight on him, but I just don't think it made it. From the booking perspective, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it was harder then, though. I think some of it you've got to take into context that people were there 1 minute and gone the next. So some decisions had to be made very quickly.
Yeah, I was thinking mainly because you say it doesn't really matter where you are on the card. I mean, as long as you're involved in interactive.
Yeah, but you can see, can't you, here that on this card, I feel like on a lot of these cards, you can, like, they are very much in order for them. They've ordered them, so how they see it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't work like that, but I think it was more structured back then. Co-main event, I alluded to it before. Rock V2 and Easy Money are now facing one another, last man standing. They broke up as a tag team. Rock wins this, which pushes him into the main event at the following pay-per-view. And obviously we'll be getting on to when his dad comes in and they have a tag team match with the producers, but I'm not going to say any more on that yet.
I don't even think you need to.
No, there's not a lot to say, mate, but it does happen. So, get used to it.
And then the main event, we've got GWC versus the Saint for the 6th WF Championship.
Yeah, so Saint is the TAW champion, and then basically the 6th WF Championship is vacant at this point. They have a tournament because Hero was the champion. This is what I'm saying about it's weird. I should have had the context. It's weird that Hero is in a match earlier in the night because the whole reason that the championship is vacant is because he wasn't promoing, right? So he was the champion and they took the belt off him. And then they had a tournament to crown a new champion. But here he is on the card.
Yeah, just how do you not quite get that?
Yeah, like I say, it's very, very like fucking TNA sort of, this is mental. But anyway, so GWC and the Saint, they're former tag team partners, right? Which was the running story. It actually made quite a bit of sense. Former tag partners, GWC turned on the Saint to join the Dynasty. So then they meet in the tournament finals. Saint is bidden to become the undisputed champion and win both world titles. But GWC cheats and wins and becomes the 6th WF champion.
This sounds like, I mean, obviously I'm looking at this personally, because like I said, I'm just reading the card, and I'm just hearing you who's basically lived through this, because I don't think I was here at this point.
Well, mate, honestly, it's like a mad clusterfuck acid trip. Like, when you look back on it, like, at the time, I'm thinking, this is great. Like, I love being part of this. And we're very nostalgic when we look back and say everything was fucking great. But in reality, it was a lot of it, mate, for at least this year. As we go through the pay-per-views and you get to like 09, 2010, etc., you start to see a lot more structure to the way things are done and how we run things. And, it sort of looks more like a real Fed. This is mental, a lot of this. This is like giving a child and just saying, like, just do whatever the fuck you want.
This feels like 2003 TNA, because
Like,
you're leading into
mad,
04, 05, 06, and that is just bang after bang after bang.
It is mad. Like, every card, and like I said, next time we'll go through the rest of the year. It's the same thing though, like in terms of, so you'll have 4 or 5 matches on the card towards like the back end or whatever, where you're like, oh my god, they're really good fucking matches. Like, they're top matches with top promos, like Saint and there's Trash TV and Hero and Cassius comes along and myself and Abe Abercorn. And then you have stuff like further down the card where you're like, what the fuck is happening here? Like,
God,
why is Hooligan boxing Ricky Hatton? We haven't even got on to that yet.
Oh God, I'm looking at Rock V2 Henchman. What the fuck is that doing that far up the card?
Like, mate, honestly, wait till we get to like Hooligan beating Max Adamson for the fucking European Championship. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface of some of the mental stuff that used to happen. Like paternity test on a pole, mate. We're not even there yet.
Oh dear God.
Just honestly, prepare yourself to have your mind fucking blown. Because when I look back at this, like, I have a lot of love for everybody that has put time and effort into getting us to where we are. Like, I really do. And it sounds really harsh because I'm probably talking down on people's efforts and that. But, mate, it's fucking crazy.
It kind of reminds me like, oh God, I follow Formula One. This reminds me of like, I don't know, like majority of the 90s early, like the low down 90s Formula One teams before they implemented the 107% rule.
But, mate, you wouldn't be... We'll delve deeper next time, but it carries on at like the same kind of pace for a while. And I don't want to say, because it sounds really harsh, and I feel like every time I come onto these podcasts, like I'm proper character assassinating or personally assassinating River Ace. And I don't want to.
Assassinating him, you're beating him over the head with a sledgehammer.
I don't want to be like that, because, you know, the guy, at the end of the day, 6WF probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Like, he did run it for a couple of years and stuff, and all that kind of stuff, and he put time and effort into it. But some of it, mate, when I look back on it, is just... like, it's hard to sort of wrap your head around it. It's just very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for me, as somebody, and don't get me wrong, like, thing is, I can't even make excuses for him, because I was gonna say, like, I'm older now, so I'm coming at it from, like, you know, more mature, my writing style and stuff. But like, he was in his mid-20s or something at this point when he's writing this show, so it's not like I was a 17-year-old kid at this point. But he's like in his mid-20s, so there's not a whole lot of excuse. He obviously just thought this was a good way of booking it. I've already voiced my opinions on stuff like the Honeys division, like, and it was bullshit. And I'm having like bra and panties matches with pregnant women and paternity tests on a pole, mate, and a fucking Johnson brawl and just a hooligan character. And just, yeah, mate, it's
yeah, like I say, when we can basically, what we can do is literally give us a blank card of matches and all that, and we basically just go, right, here's what we would do in this situation, like just each of us on our own, and then we just. So I'll probably be. It won't be an episode of. It won't be an episode connected with like probably at World's End.
Yeah, I think it needs to be its own separate kind of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will be its own separate thing. That's what I'm thinking. And then we basically just go, right, here's what we do. Here's what we do. It's not, I don't want to rub it in his face. It's like, oh yeah, we can do it better.
No, but I look forward to it because it is quite fun. I'd like to do it, regardless of whether anyone thinks we're taking the piss. Like, it's part of our history as a Fed. So, you know, I want to go over it. And obviously some of the lads I think in the Fed probably don't even know about half of this. So it's good to just have a chat about it. Like, I don't want anyone to take slights. And I know Saint and Asa were kind of booking at the same time. But as I know, because I booked with River too, that I think I've said before, he very much took the lead on a lot of this. We were just kind of there to write matches and stuff like that. Like, this was not, I don't believe for a second that any of this was the brainchild of anyone but him. Because as you'll see, as I was going to say, I think he leaves, or like, he steps down from the booking around late 2009. And I think all this stuff starts to really disappear from 6WF. Like, I think once he's not in the picture. So I think that's quite telling, personally.
Yeah. But like I say, as I mentioned before, well, I think we're pretty much done here. I mean,
yeah.
Let's have a look at the. I mean, the next pay per view is going to be 6CWF at World's End, and which is a 2-day show, which is normally reserved for the big events, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason. There's always a reason.
Yeah, there's always a reason which we can't know about until probably the show before.
Yeah, basically, you are not important enough to know, but I know, and obviously that's all you need to know because, you know, I'm the world champion. and
Oh God!
I'm the boss, and I'll just do whatever I want. And if I want to have a Johnson on a pole match at World's End, that's exactly what I'll do.
Dear God! But yeah. Anyway, like I say, next show is CWF at World's End, which will be 6th and 7th of January, which is one. I think going back out of self-aggrandizing ourselves. I think I'm going to basically just say I hope you've enjoyed your listen. I'm sorry we've been babbling at complete utter morons, and I'm sorry for JJ's actions. I'm not sure whether the character's blending over into reality at this point.
I refuse to apologise. I'm going to say sorry for absolutely nothing, right? Just to channel a bit of Conor McGregor. I shouldn't channel him actually because that's going to paint me in a really bad light. But basically, yes. Maybe the power has now gone to my head. You're all welcome. Because it's only going to get worse from here.
Yep, this is the only place where I'm in charge and he can never be in charge.
Yeah, because I don't know how this works, so I'm kind of at his mercy, to be honest. But yeah, this has been fun.
I might just stick up a random poll. I don't know. Look for a new co-host or something. Somebody less ego-driven. Maybe Marky.
Well, yeah, you can have Marky if you want, but maybe I am Marky.
No, Marky's a lot more clever than you.
Oh, that is a disgusting thing to say.
Obviously...
Give me a second, then I can say bye to everybody. I've got delivery.
But let me just be very clear. This is just next recording will be in about a month or so, roughly. Obviously, trying to be before at World's End, but let's see if we can try and sneak in something. But let me just roughly say, I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, a happy New Year. I've got no idea what on earth I'm going to be doing for my Christmas. I'm just going to be visiting my mum tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do.
Boom! I'm back.
You want to wish have you lessened your ego enough to wish everyone a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year?
Yeah, I was going to, but I'm actually disgusted that you said Mark's a lot cleverer than me, so you're definitely not getting your job back next week. Get fucked on that. But forget about it. In terms of that, everything else, obviously, yes. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. I appreciate you all. Appreciate you all being present for, the greatness of myself.
Your mad ego trips, your insane ramblings of power mad conspiracies.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm glad that you've all got to witness it, to be honest. It's been a long time coming. And yeah, just you're welcome. You're welcome.
16 years, he finally becomes a complete and utter cunt.
Exactly. And you're all very, very welcome. You're welcome. You reap what you sow, right?
Obviously, all right. All right, everyone else, take care. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
All the best, guys. See you later.